We're coming up on October, and it's my favorite month, not just because it's my birthday and have Halloween, but it's my favorite month because you decide then who are the pretenders, who are the contenders, who are the teams that, because of their cupcake schedule, they were able to win a few games versus a team that doesn't matter who they play, you line them up, they're going to crush them. This is a great time of year. We're at the very end of September. Now, we've already had a few good conference matchups. I mean, the season started with Purdue against Northwestern, which was a fun, good Big Ten West matchup. Wisconsin and Iowa pretty much just decided the Big Ten West last week in a very good football game. But this is why it's time to watch football, because now you're going to start to see things. You're going to see upsets, and you're going to see teams just beat up on each other. I have a few games, for my games to watch up on loudandopinionated.com, and I will make the predictions for those games here. There's a few games that are conference clashes that are going to have severe impact on the landscape of not only their conference, but college football. And I'm looking down the list of teams, and I'm looking at certain teams, and I'm thinking they're definitely a contender. And when you look at teams in the top 10, and you think, okay, who at the end of the year, this top 10, who's going to change? Who's going to move? What are the movers and shakers here? Who's the contenders? Who's the pretenders? I look at the top 10. I look at a team like Notre Dame. I don't see Notre Dame making it to a playoff. They have not, other than their first game, they have not shown anything to me that they would be in the top 4. Other than their first game against Michigan, which I saw bright as day how good Michigan really is last week. Despite that first win against Michigan, nothing has really stuck out to me. They had to, fight to beat Ball State. They took care of Wake Forest, but, Wake Forest has never been impressive to me. They're a middle-of-the-road ACC team. There's nothing impressive there. So when I look at a team like Notre Dame, I don't see them going to the Final Four. When I look at teams like Penn State, I think despite their struggles against Appalachian State, a little bit of Illinois, they got it together and, showed their depth. But a team like Penn State at number 9, I could see them definitely going to the top 4. If they win this weekend against Ohio State, that's absolutely going to change the landscape and put them in that position. If they beat Ohio State and Michigan this year, maybe just the one loss, I don't see a reason to keep them out of the college football playoff. Because if, say, they lose one game down the road and they still beat Ohio State and Michigan, they're going to the Big Ten Championship. They're going to win. I don't think there's anybody in the West. Wisconsin is the only team in the West that I think could compete with Penn State. And Wisconsin's already lost to BYU. So who knows with that? I look at Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma is very much a team that is a contender. They had the scare last week against Army, but watching them play and how that offense runs under Kyler Murphy and how Lincoln Riley runs that offense, it's really hard to pick against them in any scenario going down the schedule. They're obviously going to have challenges against Texas, TCU, West Virginia. They're going to have those challenges. They have them every year. But I think it's hard to pick against them. I could see them. I think they're a legit contender. So if you're keeping score at home, of the top 10, I have 2 contenders in Penn State and Oklahoma and 1 pretender in Notre Dame. I think Stanford showed a lot last week against Oregon, able to come back down 17 points, found a way to win that game in overtime. I think that's impressive, but I don't think Stanford, I think they're a pretender. I think that they don't make it to the playoff. I think they lose to Washington and they don't win the Pac-12. Now, saying a team is a pretender in this context does not say that they are actually bad. I'm not saying that. I just like pretender, contender. I like those 2 words together. I'm not saying that Stanford is a bad team. I'm not saying Notre Dame is a bad team. I'm just saying there has to be 4 teams, and those 2 I don't see being in that Final Four. Ohio State, very much a playoff contender. And it's the same scenario. I think any team in the Big Ten East, other than maybe Michigan and Michigan State because of their early losses, but then again, those early losses could end up being the deciding factor in the top 4 because who knows, Arizona State could have a great season. Maybe Notre Dame keeps having a good season. That can help Michigan. But of the 4 teams that I think have the chance to win the Big Ten East, we say every year, it's Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan State, Michigan. If any of those teams win the Big Ten East and get to the Big Ten championship and win, I think it's really hard to keep them out of the top 4. Just because the Big Ten has been so strong the last few years. It's really hard to keep them out. And I think a team like Ohio State or Penn State has a legitimate chance of doing that. It's this game this weekend, I wish it wasn't played so early in the season for them. This is big game implications. This is a November night game type situation that they should be playing here. Alabama is the best team in the country without question. When I look at the definition of the contender, are you kidding me? It is Alabama and everybody else. It is a huge cliff than everybody else. And that is saying a lot because Clemson is a very good team. Ohio State's a very good team. Georgia is a very good team. Every team behind them in the top 10 are really good, solid teams, but they are just so much better. It is Alabama, a giant cliff, everybody else. That's just the way it is. They are pinnacle of college football excellence. And it's going to be real hard for anybody to come close to beating them. And believe me, it is the worst feeling on the planet because I absolutely hate Alabama. I have not minced words about how I feel about Nick Saban and the Crimson Tide. You know what the big reason is? It's success. When you're that damn good for as long as they've been, you're going to be envious and you're going to hate them. Everybody hates dynasties. Everybody hates excellence when it's not their team. That's what happens. Clemson, very much a contender. Georgia, absolutely. The only thing that can stop Alabama, I think, this year is Georgia. And even then, they'll probably rematch them again in the top 4. That's it. But yes, this is my favorite time of year. October, leading into November. So we're really getting to the meat of the schedule. We really separate the men from the boys, the pretenders from the contenders, any other cliche you can think of. That's what happens in October.